Mr. Ojeda?
Through you, Mr. Chairman. The process for building permits, we have two certifications. We have a residential certification through the state of Ohio to act as their agent. We also have commercial, which is under the Ohio Building Code, which we are also certified through the state. We have to have minimum requirements that are stated under the Ohio Administrative Code, which are sets of plans being submitted, reviews required under the Ohio Building Code. We require that an architect, a registered architect, review the plans, and once the reviews are done, we send those to other departments while this process is going on under the commercial and under the residential. If we have some site work going on, we'll send it to the engineering department to get their input. We'll send it to wastewater, to public utilities for backflow protection. We also will send it to fire department for any input on fire protection. These are for the commercial projects. And once that process is complete and they've paid their fees, then the permit can be issued.
Thank you, Mr. Ojeda. Any questions or comments from committee members? Mr. Bullock?
I guess I have one more. Since the mayor went on all of these, answered all of these design review process questions, I don't want to take your meeting over, but I guess these are questions that you had on the sheet. Did you ask these, or did Mr. Reeser ask these?
These are questions that were brought to the committee by Mr. Reeser.
Okay. Well, I guess my next question would be, is Mr. Reeser satisfied with the answers that we received on these questions?
Well, that I don't know. We can call on him. But what I was going to make a suggestion as we get through the questions here, and then I'll come up with a direction if that pleases the committee. Mr. Brubaker.
There was several months ago that I had asked for this to be reviewed, and I mentioned it several times in council when it was going to come back, and I'm glad that it's back on the docket. I've heard for the 18 months or so that I've been on council that businesses have not come to Elyria, businesses have chose to leave Elyria because of design review, and I don't know if I've had any one business that has come to me or anybody that shared a business with me that specifically did not come to Elyria or left Elyria specifically because of design review. But I do know there are businesses in Elyria that went through the design review process with a plan and came out of the design review process where it cost them more money than what it originally did. And I agree with Mrs. Mitchell. It is a very good thing that we have that. And I agree with the mayor that it is a subjective thing, but I believe that's what part of the problem is that it is subjective. It's open to an interpretation of a committee or a group of people on what they believe within guidelines is what is in the best interest moving forward consistently with Elyria. And one thing I would like to know is possibly have some type of open forum or meeting to discuss for these businesses say that they didn't come to Elyria, and here's the reason why. Not because the roads were bad or not because we didn't salt the roads, but specifically design review. I've heard percentages of the successful businesses that have went through the design review process, but that goes back to how many of them had to actually change their plans significantly versus minor, and it cost them additional dollars that if it wasn't subjective or there wasn't these guidelines that we couldn't move away from, how many of them could have saved themselves some money? How many of them had to, well, I already brought that up, but do we have a chairperson for design review? Is there a chairperson of that committee that oversees that? We talked about minutes. The minutes and the notes, have those been, I have not seen them, and I don't know if anybody else has on the design review meetings, and I'll let you refer to that here in a second, Mr. Schilling. But there needs to be some open dialogue, and I realize that this stuff was voted in, the guidelines was voted in by council a number of years ago, but I think it does need to be looked at. Originally I had asked for a moratorium, but upon talking to individual people, moratorium, it means, my understanding is to stop the whole process, and by stopping the whole process, we're stopping businesses from moving forward. So I backed off of that, but I do believe that this process has to be looked at, and I would like to see us have some type of open forum to where these businesses can come in and share What went well? Because I know there's been people that have spoke to this committee and the council that design review worked well for them. I'm not sure that anything at all needs to be changed, but we need to hear from people that went through the process, and I guess I'll get off the soapbox at this time to allow other people to speak, but I do think that there's some situations here that need to be looked at.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Brubaker. Mrs. Mitchell?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, through you. Just one point. One thing that sticks in my mind, and I will call it a fiasco, is the Crazy Mac fiasco. That went on longer than it ever should have, in my opinion, and now he's gone. We lost a business. Granted, there's someone coming in, but we lost a business, and who's to say that all the time and effort and money that he spent coming before this committee, this council, about a sign, didn't run him out of business. And I think we have to be business friendly. Elyria needs to grow, and in order to grow, we've got to entice businesses somehow, not my job to figure out how, but somehow to come to the city. I think that is the most important thing. We're losing our revenue stream. We hear that repeatedly. But we're not going to get it back if we don't get some business here. And if businesses hear about Crazy Mac, well, why the heck would they want to come here?
Okay. Thank you, Mrs. Mitchell. Mr. Kershaw?
Through the chair, I believe in the design review process to raise the standards, if they have a standard, you know what I mean, in Elyria. And if you look at the other cities that don't have it, you definitely know, you know what I mean? So what I've heard, I mean, I'm a carpenter, and I heard, some other cities are a lot worse than Elyria's design review. So, but I'm just saying, we need to have, like Mr. Brubaker said, have an open date, or set a date, invite the public, invite the businesses, we could invite all the council members, you know what I mean? It doesn't have to be through community development. And just go review it with other cities that, there's always room for improvement. So I'm sure our design review might be so-so or okay, but there's always room for improvement anywhere in the city, and especially with design review or anything. So I think we should set another date and keep this open and keep moving forward. And Mr. Reeser's here. I was just wondering if he had wanted to make any comments or questions before this committee. Dan, did you want to speak on anything tonight?
I will.
Okay, well.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Kershaw. Larry, do you have your hand up?
Yeah.
Okay. Larry.
I want to let the committee people get done first. And I can't top them. They've mentioned about everything you could think of, and they're right, I think. But your idea, too, of the one thing doesn't fit all. There's no doubt about it. But just to phrase, if you would, here a letter, one of the letters I've received from different complaints is the fact that to let you know there is a problem. Two, and maybe you've even received this letter, when jobs didn't leave due to the economy, were chased out by the town, this administration and design review. The city was a downward spiral long before economic hit the skids, and that's right. You know, we were headed in the wrong direction anyway before all this economic stuff hit us. It's just hurt us all the more. But that's just a part of all the complaining that's in this letter. Like I said, you guys might have received it too, but that's one thing there, and that is said so many times when you talk to people. They go, no damn wonder no one's coming to Elyria. But your design review, and Mrs. Mitchell used a perfect example. That opened eyes a lot of people and perturbed a lot of people, and a lot of people think we're going the wrong way on this, and I do too. Definitely on this committee, like the mayor has mentioned, having plumbers, electricians, people like that. Definitely you want people like that, an architect and that on this committee. But there's still got to be times and come up. And the bad thing is, like Mr. Brubaker mentioned too, and what I've heard so many times, you're coming, you got yourself built up, you got your money coming available, and then get before them, and boom, you're $20,000, $30,000 more, which you were planning on going with for some, basically. And we're not wanting slums and that built. We're wanting nice places and look nice. But sometimes we're overdoing it with these bushes and hedges and red brick and so on and so forth. It's holding us back. And definitely, Donna, again, if I may, hit it on the head. We've got to get a little more friendly with business if you want businesses in here, or to even keep what you got.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tanner. Mr. Craig?